What is going on, guys? This is Pacific Thrills, and yeah, consider this my official face reveal because I wanted to do a video of me with my face in it. So yeah, face reveal. Um, so yeah, I am currently at college. I'm just beginning my first days as a college freshie. So yay for that. So yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to post videos very consistently. And this is pretty much my setup right now. You know how most people have like a desktop computer with them. I just have a laptop, so I mean, it works for now. So yeah, this will be my setup for a while, and with college going on, I'll see if I can put up videos. However, don't expect a consistent like schedule of videos. So yeah, this is kind of a little late. It's only a few days late, and late is better than never. So today we're going to talk about Canada's Wonderland announcement for 2019, and that is their new coaster, Yukon Striker. So we all knew that it was going to be a B&M dive coaster. That is not new. We completely expected that, and we already saw that the color scheme was going to be kind of a dark orangish. So yeah, we expected the color scheme. And just looking at it, I really love this color scheme. Just that dark orange blended in with that green, it gives it that really nice mountain kind of theme to it, and I really absolutely love the color scheme. And the name. A lot of people said that they did not like the name. I really like the name. It's unique, it's creative, and it's a nice name, Yukon Striker. It's unique and creative. It's not like a generic name. Yukon. That's a nice, unique name that hasn't been used before. Yukon Striker. I know a lot of people wanted it to be named Viz because, from my understanding, there's some kind of story where you have the Behemoth, the Leviathan, and the Viz. They're like three monsters. And because Canada's Wonderland already has Leviathan and Behemoth, that it would have been nice to complete their lineup by calling this Viz. However, I don't really mind that. I really love the name Yukon Striker. So just the outlook of it, I really love the name and the color scheme. Now to get onto the layout. Now okay, another thing I want to say is that I did not expect Canada's Wonderland to break all four dive coaster records, and by that I mean the tallest, the fastest, the longest, and the most inversions on any dive coaster. What I thought Cedar Fair was going to do is that they were going to keep Valraven as having the tallest drop, the longest, the fastest, the most inversions on any dive coaster, because they want Cedar Point to be like the record breaker. They want Cedar Point to have the biggest and the best coasters. So I expected Canada's Wonderland to not break any records. But here we clearly see that Yukon Striker is taller than Valraven, is faster than Valraven, is longer, and has more inversions than Valraven. So all those world records that Valraven has, it does not have anymore. Cedar Point no longer has those records. They all belong to Canada's Wonderland now, and I find that really surprising. Another thing I want to point out, yeah, it has the best of strength. I'm not exactly sure how much they reduce the air time because I haven't been on a dive coaster and I haven't been on a dive coaster with best of strength, so I'm not sure how bad it is, so you just have to judge for yourself on whether or not that's a good thing. But now, I really want to get to the layout of this coaster, just because it is really unique. I did not expect it to be this unique at all. I thought it was going to be the traditional layout, you know, like drop, Immelman, mid-course, and then drop, and then an Immelman or a dive loop, and then something unique, and then it's over. I expected to be that basic dive coaster layout, and this is far different than that basic layout. So yeah, going on to the stats, this coaster is going to be 245 feet tall. That is like really tall for a dive coaster. Like like what Valraven is, what, 215 feet? I had the drop of like 215 to 220 feet. I may have to double check that. So yeah, a drop of 245 feet is a lot taller. Now here's the thing, I don't know if by 245 feet they mean the drop or the height, because the drop actually goes underground, and this is what I absolutely love about the drop, is that the drop goes under and through the lake as well as going through the helix on Vortex. So that's gonna be a beautiful moment, and this, I feel like it's going to make it the best drop on any dive coaster on the planet. Just diving through that lake as well as diving through that helix on Vortex, and when Vortex is actually going through that helix while Yukon Striker is going down the drop, that is going to be a really cool moment. So I absolutely love that. And then the other stats have a top speed of 80 miles per hour and length of I think 3,200 feet. I may need to check that, but that definitely makes it the longest dive coaster ever. And it has 4 inversions, which beats Valraven's 3 inversions. So now, yeah, so let me just first talk about the first half of this layout, because this first half it's really, really interesting. So you have the traditional drop and then Immelman. That's the same as it always has been. And then you don't go into a mid-course brake run. You go straight into a 0G roll, and then after that a vertical loop, and then after that an Immelman that takes you in the opposite direction, and then you hit the mid-course brake run, and that's the first half. Yeah, a lot different than the traditional layout. And another thing I want to point out is that the land behind the lake, I was expecting the coaster to use more of that land, but all the land behind the lake is used for is that Immelman. After that, the ride is kind of taken out into the side of these other rides. Now I don't know, I haven't been to Canada's Wonderland, I don't really know the layout of the park. It kind of takes you to the side, and that's where it does like all the inversions, and then it takes you back to the station. But I expected the coaster to use a lot more of the land behind the lake. That's where all the development was happening. So that's interesting. But another thing, I want to talk about the inversions. So of course you have that Immelman, and then the 0G roll. I haven't been on a dive coaster like I said before, but I can really expect some really nice whip on those outside seats as you're going through the 0G roll. That's gonna be awesome. And then a vertical loop. Now, a vertical loop on a dive coaster is a really weird choice, and I'm not sure if I necessarily think that's a good choice. I mean, of course, it depends on whether or not the loop will actually give force, because it's a pretty standard element, but if the loop does give some really good positive G, then it's a really forceful element that I won't have a problem with it at all. But if it doesn't, then in my opinion, it's just kind of an addition that shouldn't have been there. And then of course you have the Immelman, and you're back to the brake run. So that's the first half. The first half, for the most part, is really solid. If I want to say that any part of this ride is the best, it's definitely that first drop, that Immelman, and that 0G roll. That part of the ride is definitely going to be the best part of this ride. But now we get to the second half of this ride after the mid-course brake run, and it's a really stale and anticlimactic ending. It doesn't look like a good second half at all. Because, okay, you know how like most dive coasters, the mid-course brake run takes you to a full stop, or almost to a full stop, and then you dive down another drop, not at a 90-degree angle, but close to one, and then you do some more stuff. Well, this one, it does the same thing. It takes you to a near stop in the mid-course brake run and takes you on another dive. But that second dive isn't really that tall. I'm not sure how tall it is, but judging from the animation, it doesn't look that tall at all. And then after that, you go into a little airtime hill. I'm not sure how much airtime you're going to get out of that, especially since you have the best restraints. And then after that, you have a helix, which doesn't look to be forceful at all. If anything, it looks more like Gatekeeper's helix, in which like it's not there to actually give any force, it's just there for the sake of being there. And then the ride's over after that helix. So that second half doesn't really have a lot in it, and it just looks really stale and really boring and forceless. The only reason I think that they included that second half is so that they could have a mid-course brake run and they could run more trains on the ride. But I mean, so yeah, the second half is pretty anticlimactic, but the first half is definitely solid, especially up to that 0G roll. That part looks absolutely amazing, and the drop through the lake and through the helix on Vortex, I love what Canada's Wonderland did with that. So now I want to talk about how a lot of people have been calling this what could possibly be the best dive coaster in the world. And, well, of course I haven't ridden any dive coasters, again, like I said, like how many times already, but I don't know, I would have to say it would be a competition between this and Valkyria, because, I don't know, just from the layout, Valkyria's layout looks like a really, really solid layout. Like, it's not one of the bigger dive coasters like this or Valraven or Griffin. It's definitely one of the smaller ones. And it doesn't have a mid-course brake run, but I feel like not having the mid-course brake run is what makes it that good. Because after the Immelman on Valraven, you have a nice turnaround, and then you have a 0G roll, and then a hill that may or may not give airtime, and then you have another 0G roll, but this one, the second 0G roll looks like it goes pretty slowly, so you probably gonna get some good hang time on that. So yeah, Valkyria looks like a really, really good dive coaster and really, really solid layout. So if there's gonna be any best dive coaster in the world, I would have to say it's gonna be between Yukon Striker and Valkyria. So my final thoughts on this ride, so yeah, I know that a lot of people think that dive coasters are like very weak coasters, that they're just like one-trick ponies, that the drop is the only really good part of dive coasters, and then after that it's just kind of boring. Although I'm still really excited for Canada's Wonderland to be getting this, because this is a huge addition. And the last coaster that they got was Wonder Mountain, I think it was like, 2014. And like the last major coaster that they got was Leviathan, that was 2012. So it's been a long time since we've gotten like a really huge roller coaster edition. So with Yukon Striker, this is definitely good for Canada's Wonderland. And it's going to definitely attract a ton of people because they're going to see this massive drop, and it's going to scare them, it's going to intimidate them, they're going to want to ride it. This, from a business standpoint, I feel like they made a right decision with this, and it's nice that Canada's Wonderland is finally getting a really solid, huge addition. Okay, yeah, so those are my thoughts on Yukon Striker. Please subscribe if you want more coaster content in the future. Hit that like button, leave a comment if you want to. What else do I say? Notification bell button, I don't know. So yeah, this is Pacific Thrill signing out.